Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Hello and welcome to the episode of Box Office Bingers. It made me laugh. We have a jam-packed episode for you guys this week. There's so much stuff in this episode. We couldn't stuff it anymore. Ernesto, Charlie, listen, what do we look forward to in this episode?
Now, this is a movie I have 100% been looking forward to. Like, pretty much this is one of my I've been looking forward to all year. And we are reviewing Dev Patel's directorial debut, written, directed, produced, and starring Dev Patel. He's been in movies such as Slumdog Millionaire, The Green Knight.
Wait, you haven't said the movie yet.
I said Monkey Man.
You said he starred. Oh, I didn't hear you say Monkey Man.
I probably did.
Did you say Monkey Man?
You know what? The recording
okay,
will tell us. I don't remember. I thought I did, but I might not have. We are reviewing Dev Patel's new movie, Monkey Man, that he wrote, directed, and produced, and starred in. He's been in such films such as Slumdog Millionaire, The Green Knight, and he was in all 3 seasons of The Newsroom. Produced by Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Productions Company. The film was actually meant to be released straight to streaming on Netflix until Jordan Peele saw the film and, feeling it deserved a theatrical release instead, acquired it from Netflix for $10 million under his Monkey Paw Productions banner, which has a distribution deal with Universal Pictures. And man, what a movie do we have to talk about. When this movie debuted at South by Southwest, it got a standing ovation. I'm very excited to talk about this movie with you.
No, absolutely. And also just that story too. I mean, what a glowing recommendation that like your movie was going to be premiering on Netflix, which I believe would have done just fine on Netflix, to be honest with you. But Jordan Peele saw it and was like, no, this movie needs to be in the theater. Hey, Netflix, how much are you going to sell that movie for? How much? I want to buy your movie.
You know what?
Sell
he
it
was
to
right.
me. And he was right. It definitely deserved a theatrical release. And we're going to be talking about that and its box office reception to see if that $10 million went anywhere later in the show. But like we said, we have a jam-packed episode for you guys this week. And we're going to get right into it. Starting with Julia Garner, best known for her Emmy-winning role as Ruth Langmore in Ozark, has reportedly been cast as Shala Ball, an alternate version of Silver Surfer, in Marvel's upcoming film, The Fantastic Four. Shala Ball was first introduced as the lover of Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer, in Silver Surfer #1 in 1968. According to Deadline, Garner is playing an alternate version of the Silver Surfer, suggesting that this is the version from Earth X, one of Marvel's most notable alternate realities. Silver Surfer has become the herald of the villain Galactus, a cosmic entity who consumes planets, in exchange for their planet being spared, separating the lovers for eternity. Ernesto, this is a very interesting choice that's going into the MCU, and honestly, I'm for it. I love Julia Garner in Ozark and pretty much a few other projects that I've seen her in. I think this is a great choice moving forward.
I mean, she's a fantastic actress. And what's really funny is to see all the people up in arms online like, well, they cast a girl Silver Surfer. Like, well, if you did like 15 seconds of research, you would see that this is actually comic book accurate. There's some comic book accuracy along with her character. And I think that this is a very positive way to weave it into the MCU. She's a fantastic ad. As you mentioned, she's been great in everything she's been in. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. And I think there's like rumors that Galactus is going to be the main villain now, which I'm totally for. But my only worry about that is that Galactus cannot be a one-hit wonder. Like he's gonna they're gonna have to take care of him, and he's gonna have to like go away so he can come back. He's that big and powerful villain that he just can't be like put off in just one movie.
There's so much pressure on this Fantastic Four movie. I feel like that they have to nail it in the first go around. And I think bringing Julia Garner on as the Silver Surfer, and even as the description said, this is a character, to your point, it's a character that like a lot of people are up in arms about, oh, you got a female Silver Surfer. It's like, yeah, a character that was introduced in 1968. Give it a break.
Get out of here. Yeah, of course everybody wants
here.
to see the Silver Surfer, but maybe he's just not coming yet. And this could just be her in the way that they word it. This could be a Silver Surfer from another universe. So,
right. I don't understand the up in arms. I never understood it. It's like, let Marvel do what they do. They haven't really disappointed me since they started. Yeah, there's a few things.
Hold on, man. I don't know if I agree with that.
Post Endgame, there definitely has been a lot of like. But for the most part, I'm okay. I'm not. There's only. I think Secret Invasion is the only thing I was up in arms about. But it was more about the story.
Quantum Mania
thing. That's true. That's fair. You know, I'm like, yeah. Like I said, post Endgame. Okay. But regardless, like even with the stories, like two lovers being separated, who's to say that the roles can't be flipped for this version of it?
True.
Like
very true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Silver Surfer was the herald of the Galactus, but why can't this alternate version also be the herald of Galactus? There's no reason that it can't be. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine with this casting and the direction where it seems to be going. And we don't know what universe this movie is taking place in. A lot of rumors are saying it's not in the MCU that we know of. So why not have an alternate version of a whole bunch of stuff? So like,
it could be the Secret Wars like battleground, like because in the Secret Wars comic, you know, they all come together to Battle World with like what's left of the realities, and they kind of fight it out. In the end, is like this. It's like Secret Wars is like this reset event. That's like, all right, let's all this extra shit that we have out there that we either want to bring into this universe or get rid of in this universe. That's what these events are. It's a kind of like reset continuity. And that, I mean, once we get to Secret Wars, we're going to see a lot of that. So they could. It just feels like that's what they could be setting us up for. Like, because this is like, where is Fantastic Four in Secret Wars? I think is as far as like release.
A good 2 years before.
Now, what is going? You know off the top of your head what's coming? I know I'm putting you on the spot. What's coming out in between?
Yeah. Obviously we have the Kang Dynasty. If that releases, the title's still the same. We're having it's probably a different title, but there's before Secret Wars. There's an Avengers movie.
I got it.
There's rumors to be a Shang-Chi sequel.
See, we got Deadpool and Wolverine next year. Agatha.
This year.
Yeah, excuse me, this year. Okay. Captain America: Brave New World. On Valentine's Day next year. Then we have Thunderbolts, and then after Thunderbolts is Fantastic Four, and then after Fantastic Four is Blade, and then the two Avengers movies. So.
Are you sure Thunderbolts is? I thought Thunderbolts was after
May 2nd, 2025.
Fantastic Four. That's Thunderbolts? Oh, maybe they did switch. Yeah,
well, this is according to IGN.
No, I believe him. Yeah.
Well, this was posted January 1st, 2024. Let's see.
Just I'm gonna do a quick IMDb check. Maybe they did switch release dates. I do know that Captain America is next. Thunderbolts.
May 2nd, 2024. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's right. Yeah. Okay. I totally forgot about that. Then. Yeah. So then, we got two before. We got Deadpool, then Captain America, the Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four, and then I think they're probably going to be announcing more down the pike come like Comic-Con and D23 and those announcements. They're probably going to have some more in between the Avengers movies and whatnot. But yeah, I think also there was a rumor that I saw that speaking of Marvel, that Marvel is no longer developing a Eternals 2, a Ant-Man 4, or a Captain America 3, which that's probably
Captain America
not
4?
a bad idea. No, I'm sorry, Captain Marvel. I'm sorry, Captain Marvel 3. Captain Marvel 3. So yeah, Eternals 2, Ant-Man 4, Captain Marvel 3 are no longer being considered as potential movies in the future. Which I'm okay with.
And I agree with you when you talk about all the pressure being on Fantastic Four because of it being released the same month as Superman.
Yeah. Oh my
god.
This
is really really this movie is gonna be like the like the make it or break it for MCU, because we're gonna have two
Absolutely.
big summer releases, superhero movies going like that. Like Fantastic Four and Superman, that's gonna be our Barbenheimer. And man, I don't think I don't remember if the weekends lined up correctly, but either way, they're going that month. They're going head to head.
Oh, I'm looking this up right now. Fantastic Four is July 25th,
So it comes out after.
and Superman is July 11th. So there's a 2-week buffer in between the two movies. So Superman is first.
Either way, they're still going head.
I mean, 2025. I'm looking.
Oh, absolutely.
They're still going head to head for
Yeah.
sure.
Maybe not directly on that weekend, but it's going to be. I mean, they're going to be competing as far as like who's going to make the superior universe now, especially since with all this fallout with that Marvel's been having with their hero, with all their actors, and that whole piece that Variety did last year. Like, it's like next year's going to be an interesting place. I think Deadpool's probably going to set them off, like give them the jump start of what they need to do to reset, and then like Fantastic Four should take it off. I have high hopes because they've been on a massive course correction, so I'm hopeful that they're going to bring it back home.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel has been on a course correction. DC is trying to start something new. These two movies, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be a taste for Marvel. I think the Fantastic Four is going to be the make it or break it for Marvel. And then the same for Superman. That's going to be the catalyst. If that ain't right, then what will we say about the rest of the DCU at this point? But if it succeeds, then we have a good path. And the same for Fantastic Four as well. So a lot to be considered in 2025. And again, going back to this casting, I'm okay with this. I'm
all for it. I think it's going to be great. All right. So moving on, I feel like I should have did the noise like your friend Chandler did when he came on. Lisa Nalgaid. Praise Shai Halud.
Praise Denis Villeneuve.
Exactly. For those who are just listening, what we're talking about is following the massive success of Dune Part 2, director Denis Villeneuve looks to be staying with Legendary Pictures to make his next two films. First, Legendary confirmed that a third Dune movie is in development. Holla, presumably titled Dune Messiah, with Denis Villeneuve returning to write and direct. Very I mean, you can listen to the review. The movie is a masterpiece. Like the movie should be studied on how to make movies. Like that's how good that movie is.
Yeah, this was a no-brainer to continue, and I think he was always meant to make 3. I think that's what he wanted. So, I think the success of Dune Part 2 makes it a no-brainer that we're getting the third movie.
Absolutely. And on top of that, Legendary is also in discussions with Villeneuve to direct an adaptation of Annie Jacobson's nonfiction Pulitzer Prize finalist novel, Nuclear War, a Scenario, after Legendary obtained the film rights. Jacobson's book explores a ticking clock scenario about what would happen in the event of a nuclear war, based on dozens of exclusive new interviews with military and civilian experts who built the weapons and have been privy to the response plans and have been made responsible for those decisions should they have needed to be made. Damn. I'm excited for his. I love anything that he does. Arrival's one of my. I'm like a Denis Villeneuve fanboy, like all the way. He's a fantastic director. Like as a creative, like what he does, what he brings to the stories, the amount of attention he brings to his stories. These next two movies, like I don't even know what this book's. I'm just learning about what this book's about. Like I'm gonna have to read the book now.
Yeah. What's funny? I believe the book was just released like not even a couple months ago, so this is a fairly new book. What I find also entertaining is like when I read this and I was like, oh, so this is Denis like Oppenheimer now. Like this is that's basically he's just going down the same path. It's like
it's a continuation from Oppenheimer.
Yeah, like Christopher Nolan did the Batman trilogy and then Oppenheimer with a couple of movies in between, and so Denis just doing the same thing. He's like, oh, I got my 3 movies in a franchise. I got the Dune franchise, and now I'm doing the Nuclear War, which is basically an Oppenheimer, and this will probably win me the Oscar. And that's everything is said and done. It's as it was written, as it was meant to be.
As Shai Halud has written.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're in the bag for anything that he does. I think it's smart for Legendary to keep him in the bag as long as possible, because he's a fantastic filmmaker. And when this man can make you so much money in the box office, you want to hold on to him as much as you can. So locking him down for not only a third Dune movie and for another movie that who knows when we're going to get. And who knows which order we're going to do it in. Maybe he wants to do the Nuclear War first and then Dune 3. But either way, I mean, he's a fantastic director, so we're in the bag for whatever he's doing next.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for that. Like, we're going to be obviously we're going to be following that news. Like, anything that comes out for any of these projects, you'll hear from us, because we're on board for Denis Villeneuve. And keeping with Dune, we're going to be talking about Timothée Chalamet, who just signed a deal with WB. They signed a multi-year feature film with Timothée Chalamet to collaborate on future projects as star and producer, following the massive box office success of both Wonka and Dune Part 2. Chalamet led back-to-back box office hits for Warner Brothers, with December's Wonka $632 million globally, and this March's Dune Part 2 $666 million globally and counting. According to the studio, he became the first actor in 4 decades to star in the top 2 domestic films that were released in 8 months. As part of the first look agreement, Chalamet can make movies elsewhere, but Warner Brothers will get first dibs on backing his potential projects. He's a fantastic actor. Like, he's incredible. Like, he's like his range, like literally the juxtaposition of the two characters. You have Willy Wonka and Paul Atreides. Couldn't be the more different. like literally yin and yang characters, and he was able to bring his range is like his range. He has great range. Like what he was able to bring to both characters was incredible.
Yeah, I think it's also, again, another smart move for Warner Brothers. Like, hey, we have these two movies that came out very close to each other, and he's like, hey, these movies made more than $500 million each. Combined total gross on just him as the lead role is $1.2 billion. So yeah, Warner Brothers is probably want to keep him in the bag just for a little bit longer, and I don't blame them for doing that. And it's funny because I just recently read that Chalamet is giving a lot of praise to working with Denis, because he never felt like that he had much of a career until just recently with the Dune franchise. And now you see him going all these, because he's been like Call Me by Your Name and other smaller roles like Little Women, but like as a lead, like it was Dune that really kicked it off, and then getting Wonka, and then both of those being massive successes for the studio makes 100% sense that that Warner Brothers Discovery want to hold on to him to make more movies in the future, and basically saying, hey, if you want whatever you want to make, like in the future, like we're going to back you. And that's just what a huge accomplishment as an actor to have that on your back pocket.
Oh yeah, they want to keep him for a long time, so they want to go ahead. You can make whatever you want. Just just let us know. Just give us a heads up. We get first dibs. That's all that matters. So they're gonna try to lock him in for. So I wonder what other big, massive project they could be locking him in for. Could we see him potentially entering the DC universe now that he's part of the family?
At this point, I mean, I'm sure that Warner Brothers would love. I think James Gunn will have final say, but I think Warner Brothers might be, hey, we got this guy that you might can just star in a movie, just anyone you want, James Gunn. Just star in one.
My personal fan cast, I would like to see him. I think he would be a good Nightwing.
Ooh, I kind of like that.
Right?
I kind of like Nightwing. Yeah, that's solid. I'm not sure how he folds in a superhero setting, but because I feel like he's more of an actor. But then there's Dune, which is like
Wonka.
Okay, that's
he was Willy
Yeah,
Wonka. Okay.
He's like,
what do you
talking
mean?
about? He's Willy Wonka, actor. Did you see him float?
Did you see him floating and singing and shit? To then using that voice on that woman, silence. Like,
yeah, it's
same
true.
person.
Same person, same actor. You know, he definitely has range, and more recently I respected him more for an actor for his range recently, because I never saw him as like a big actor up until Dune.
Agreed.
And so
Agreed.
yeah, again, makes complete sense. When you can make when you can make a studio money, you can pretty much do anything you want at this point.
Absolutely.
And the last story that we're sticking with Warner Brothers, they have announced that a fifth Matrix movie is in the works. Drew Goddard, the director behind Cabin in the Woods and Bad Times at El Royale, the writer behind Cloverfield, World War Z, and The Martian, and the creator behind the Daredevil series, will be writing and directing the film. This marks the first Matrix installment not to have Lana or Lily Wachowski in the directing chair, although Lana Wachowski will executive produce. Warner Brother Pictures president and production Jesse Ehrman said in a statement, Drew came to Warner Brothers with a new idea that we believe would be an incredible way to continue the Matrix world by both honoring what Lana and Lily began over 25 years ago and offering unique perspective based on his own love of the series and characters. Warner Brothers did not reveal if any key cast members like Keanu Reeves or Carrie Ann Moss will be returning, nor did it disclose any details about the plot. I'm skeptical about another Matrix movie. I do like Drew Goddard as a director. I love Cabin in the Woods, and I like The Martian and World War Z. Like, those movies are absolutely fine. And I think if he has a different take to the Matrix franchise, then by all means, let's go for it. But like, I don't know if it's run its course at this point.
Well, I love the Matrix, so I'm all for it. I actually enjoyed the last one. Like, it was fine. Like, now obviously, I think it's one of the weaker ones in the franchise, but it was still decent. Yeah, I thought it was still decent. I think.
Oh, I beg to differ. I thought that I loved the last one more than the trilogy in some cases, because I like meta, as you know, and the first act of that movie was all meta. And so I was like, well, okay, wait a minute. It was something different that I appreciated going into it. And that's what I want from these movies. So if he can offer the same, then, like I said, by all means, let's give us something different, not the same thing that we've been seeing.
I agree with you 100%. So what I think for this one, I think we don't necessarily need the original cast. Like, I think maybe the Matrix is big enough where we can explore other characters. Like, we can explore other stories. We can go to maybe we go to different points in time. Like, it doesn't have to be about the Keanu storyline. But I am confident with this director, because all those other movies, they kind of very similar. They deal with like worlds that are large in scale, like World War Z or Cabin in the Woods. Like, he can handle big set areas and still tell a great cohesive story.
I agree with that. And I honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing The Matrix go into as a series.
I agree.
Like, instead of a movie.
It has an anime series. There's a small anime. Oh, no, actually, it was a movie. It was a movie of like a bunch of short stories. But I think, there's enough there that it can be turned into a series. I agree.
Yeah, I think so. But I also do agree with you that the world is big enough where we don't really necessarily need the main cast to return. I think we can explore other parts of the Matrix and still be a good movie. So, So moving on from that, kind of staying, I said that this was the last Warner Brothers, but this is kind of the definitive last thing. Kit Harington, best known for his performance as Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, has confirmed that the Game of Thrones Jon Snow spin-off series is no longer in development. In an interview, he said, "It's off the table. We couldn't find the right story to tell that we were all excited about. There may be a time in the future where we return to it, but at the moment, no."
And I'm fine with that.
And
that sounds like fantastic.
Yeah, honestly, I like in a world where we're oversaturated with so much content. If you feel like you're not going to waste your time if you can't figure out a story to tell, then why even invest time and energy into making it if you're not passionate about it? And also, we have the House of Dragon that's doing well. There's another Game of Thrones series that's in the works as well. So like, it's not like we're not getting Game of Thrones at all. We're getting it in a different way, and he had 7 seasons worth of a show to tell his story. I think we're good.
But there was if you go back and look, what the appeal that this actor and this character had a hold on people. Like people used to love talking about Jon Snow. So like it almost like, especially during that time, it almost made sense. I even think that we've probably have talked about it. Like, oh wow, that would be great to see what they can explore. But it's good to see that they're having conversations that they're like, hey, if there's nothing there, then maybe we just move on.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, and as creators, I think it's smart sometimes to have that realization.
Absolutely.
Is like we tried, it just doesn't work. I think we should just move on and maybe give it a year or two. And if anyone's interested in going back into it, then maybe there's something there. But at the moment, if we don't got it, we don't got it. And that's okay too.
And not for nothing, you can sets all these other people up to be on other great projects that they can free themselves up for.
Yep, I totally agree with that.
All right, so we had other happy news. Haha, you see what I did there?
I saw you.
Adam Sandler has officially confirmed that a Happy Gilmore 2 film is in development for Netflix. Sandler has said in an interview that a first draft of the script has been written and wants to use it as an opportunity to honor the late Bob Baker, Joe Flaherty, and Carl Weathers, who were all in the first film. I think.
I that was a typo. I meant Bob Barker. That's Bob Barker.
Oh,
yeah.
Bob Barker. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fantastic. The original one is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, it's hilarious. It's a classic. I'm all for it. Just don't ruin it. And it sounds like he has the best intentions in mind, especially with wanting to honor some of the legacy characters who have passed away.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, Ernesto. I've either not seen Happy Gilmore or I don't remember it. I obviously it's about, golf, but that's as much as I remember about the movie.
Adam Sandler is a loser playing hockey, but he has a really good shot. So then he just becomes this freak golf player. But he's a golf player with like the mindset of a hockey player.
Oh, I see. That sounds like a Adam Sandler movie right there.
It's fucking hilarious. Literally, him and Bob Barker go at it.
I've seen that scene. I have seen that scene.
That is a fucking great scene.
Yeah, I definitely have to watch it.
There's like a guy. This is like one of the movies where he has his people in the crowd. He has like his people, like his set of people, and I forgot who it is. I forgot his name. It's like they just scream at him all the time, like "You suck!" Like just like random shit. It's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, it's obviously a classic. In the age of reboots and sequels, it's a no-brainer that this would eventually have its own sequel. And Netflix, who's been working with Adam Sandler for so long, I think Netflix is just funding Adam Sandler at this point. They're not even really asking what you're doing. They're just saying, "You want to make another one? Here you go. Here's more money. Yeah, you give us a lot of streams."
His
so
movies fit perfect.
Here you go.
His style of movies Netflix is the perfect medium for that.
Absolutely. I do agree. And I will be talking about one of his movies later in Whatcha Watchin.
Ooh, softies.
Softies.
So in other news, Margot Robbie is doing the Monopoly movie. All right, Margot Robbie's I don't know. It makes sense. It makes sense. I know. It's her. All right, let me do this correctly. Margot Robbie's Luckchap production company and Vertigo Entertainment announced that they are developing the Sims movie based on the beloved computer game franchise. Kate Herron, who's best known for directing season 1 of Loki, will be writing and directing the film. Electronic Arts, which published the game, will also be involved in a creative and producing capacity. Sims is a life simulation computer game where players play as an avatar that has changeable personality traits, skills, and relationships, and goes through the mundane tasks of daily life, making dinner and decorating a home. Yeah, I used to love playing The Sims as a kid. I thought it was a fun game. I am curious on how that is going to translate into a movie. Like, are we even going to include the player, or are we going to do like this back and forth meta thing, or is she going to be like in Sims Land, like kind of very similar Barbie style? So I'm kind of curious in like what kind of direction they're going in, and is it going to be like a Sims movie? Or is it gonna be like like Barbie?
Yeah, it's a very interesting decision to go into. It's not to say that it's a bad one, but given that Margot Robbie also produced the Barbie movie, it makes sense that, okay, we're going to take other obscure, popular franchises or series or things that are not necessarily a movie or a television series, but more of a different medium, and we're going to take it into the movie space. And if you can, and I think they're trying to recapture that Barbie magic again. I don't think it's going to be as a phenomenon as it was, but if you can give us an interesting story within that world, then that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those we'll just have to wait and see what kind of direction it's going to be going in. But that's not all. It is also announced that Luckchap will be working with Lionsgate to develop a live-action film based on the board game Monopoly. Hasbro Entertainment, the company behind Monopoly, will also produce. According to the studio, Monopoly is the world's most popular board game brand with 99% global awareness. It's available in more than 100 countries across the globe, selling nearly 500 million copies going back to 1935. I think Monopoly is going to be the one that really needs to be done right. Like think about the legacy that is tied to this brand. And that's a good point. Like the brand recognition, like that's true. Like you really can't fuck around with Monopoly. No,
you really can't.
But then, what is that story like? What is that even? Like, I'm so curious of what does that story even look like?
That's very true. And honestly, making a movie about Monopoly makes a lot more sense than making a movie about Sims. But I think with anything, it all depends how you tell the story. And the fact that Luckchap and Margot Robbie is going behind, obviously with Barbie again. And also, if you didn't know, Luckchap was also the production company behind Saltburn. So they're very versatile in what movies that they decide to produce. And so most of the movies they've done is what starred Margot Robbie. So we don't know if The Sims or Monopoly will star Margot Robbie or not. But we do know that Saltburn, Margot Robbie was not in it, so she doesn't have to be in it for it to be a success. But I think with the success of Barbie, like, she can do whatever she wants. True. And she's probably had many talks with Hasbro and was like, hey, Barbie was a success. What other things that you own that we can make into a movie? And they agreed on Monopoly, and Lionsgate felt the same as well. And then going back to The Sims, Vertigo Entertainment felt like they can make something out of Sims, and kind of going down that market that maybe is not as tapped into as obviously it was lightning in a bottle with Barbie, but now let's continue down that train and give us something that we know, but not necessarily in the medium of movies and televisions. So I'm interested in this idea of going forward, of giving us these types of movies. But we've seen like the positive end of it, of like Barbie, and then we've seen the negative end of it, of like the Emoji Movie, which it just didn't make any sense at all to make a movie about that. Or we have like a lukewarm version of that with Angry Birds, where you have the computer game and they made 2 movies out of it, and they were somewhat financially okay, and I never really. Yeah, they were fine. So like, there's a lot going on with this story that I think Margot Robbie's very interesting. She's going down a path, but if done right, she could be unlocking a whole different market that we're not ready for yet.
She could be finding her lane. Like that could just be her thing. What she does. Although she's bringing her. I mean, she's a fantastic actress. Bringing everything that she can to those roles.
Yeah.
It makes them at least worth watching. I'll say that.
Yes, it's like, it makes it, as far as a story is concerned, this is an interesting choice to develop movies based off these brands. It's another thing that we'll have to see. Like, what are these stories about? Who are you casting in these roles? And, what does it look like? And if you can transcend those mediums and kind of make it relatable within the movie atmosphere, then I think you have a hit. But we'll have to see, because it doesn't always work out that way. So time will tell with these projects, but I'm interested nonetheless.
And man, I think you're really excited for this next set of news. Like, it seems like, I think like this is what you really, I think this is like really what you wanted to talk about.
Oh my God. Can you throw up the other graphic first? And we'll come back to there we go. This makes me laugh so much, and I don't have any intention of watching any of these movies, but it just makes me smile. I don't know why.
Explain it to our friends who are just listening.
Yes, explain it. Yes. The creators behind Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2 are doubling down on their fairy tale turned horror movie universe with an Avengers-esque tie-in movie called Pooniverse Monsters Assembled. Jagged Edge Productions and ITN Studios say their crossover event plans are real and set to terrify audiences with a 2025 release window. Jagged Edge Productions also announced a slate of upcoming films that will presumably lead toward the Pooniverse Monsters Assemble crossover film, including Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and Pinocchio Unstrung. Wow. What are those titles? The company promises that the film will bring their horror movie villains together to tell a story that sees them join forces to take down the world. And it's all part of the grand cinematic scheme they're calling the Twisted Childhood Universe. It's also important to note that these movies are all of these characters are in the public domain, and they are just taking it and turning them into classic, what Disney has turned into nice fairy tales and family fun entertainment. This studio is trying to bring them in and make them into horror icons. Where was I? They go on to say, we are heavily influenced by Freddy vs. Jason and the Avengers. We would love to see a horror movie where the villains group together and they're going after their survivors. We have some incredible set pieces in mind, and some sequences I think will truly shock people. The movies we are working on now as standalones are all building towards Pooniverse Monsters Assemble. More characters such as Sleeping Beauty and the Mad Hatter are also said to be on the way. I don't know who keeps funding them, but as you can go to the next graphic, as this, like I said, this makes me laugh. I have really no intention of watching any of these movies, but all I have to say is you keep doing your thing.
Whatever.
That. I think as far as a creative, if you can make this happen, I'm sure you're going to make some fans happy. And I just find it really funny that they are doubling down on all of this. It's like, it's one thing to make a horror version of Winnie the Pooh. It's another to be like, all of those classic fairy tales, we're just going to bring them all in one movie. It's smart when you think about it, because if no one else is going to do it, why not you?
Exactly. Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I also have no interest in watching any of this, but I am intrigued to see how far it actually goes.
Yes, and also the reception about it too. I remember Terrifier, if you remember that horror series, a lot of people were talking about the first movie, and then it kind of blew up as a cult classic very quickly, and then it moved into the sequel, and now people are gearing up for the third movie that everyone's excited about. And so this could find its audience, and if it does, and if it becomes successful, then it might have my eyes on it. But other than that, I'll be keeping my distance from this, because this looks absolutely, this looks absolutely ridiculous and very stupid, especially from the trailer that I've seen from the first movie and from the second movie. But if they can find a way to turn around that has my interest, then I might give it a watch. But for now, I'm good. Okay. But I just find it very funny that they're not stopping anytime soon. We're getting a lot more of this. And as a hard transition from that, Disney. Lastly, we're going to be talking about a few news from Disney. The Walt Disney Company made a few announcements this past week. First being the launch of Hulu on Disney Plus in the U.S. First being the official launch of Hulu on Disney Plus in the U.S. for Disney Bundle subscribers, bringing together the extensive Disney Plus and Hulu libraries all in one place. Those who pay for the Disney Plus/Hulu bundle will now have access to all the content on Hulu through the Disney Plus app. Bundle plans are available starting at $9.99 per month with ads and $19.99 per month with no ads, while Disney Plus and Hulu each remain available as standalone offerings, which I understand why they're doing that, but it kind of defeats the whole purpose of integrating both of them into one app, but still have both of the apps available for separate distribution. This this is I'm quoting from the actual press release. I find it very funny that this is even included in this, but it says this: the rollout also features refreshed branding for Disney Plus, including a refined logo, color palette, and orchestral mnemonic created. Thank you. Created by Academy Award-winning composer Ludwig Göransson. This evolution blends Hulu's signature green into the legacy Disney Plus blue, creating a premium and elevated feel to welcome Hulu on Disney Plus and mark a new chapter in the storytelling for the streaming service.
Damn, you know what? They should have just fucking led with that. That should have been the lead. Like, you should have just told me you had Ludwig Göransson compose your intro and you changed the color. Like, I'd have been on board from the very beginning. You should have just led with that.
I need Disney to calm down. You changed the
like it's not that serious. Calm down.
you changed the color of your logo. That's all you did. All right. But honestly, on a side note, it is smart to go with more of a greenish color, considering that like Paramount and Max and they're all blue, and Disney Plus was among them that were also blue, and HBO Max was purple, which made it stand out. And then when Max came out, they're like, we're going to change that to blue. And I was like, well, we already got a whole bunch of blues on this, so sure.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
But I think since Hulu is a very defined green, with Disney Plus turning into like a darker greenish color, it makes sense to change it to keep it as a standout amongst the rest of the streaming services when you're scrolling through all the different apps and finding which streaming service you want to go to. It makes sense to me, but the description is downright ridiculous. I mean, calm down. You change the color of your logo.
It's not that deep. Disney, chill out.
It's not that deep. But again, for those who have Hulu on Disney Plus, I know we talked about it and in the past, but now it's officially happening. If you pay for the Disney Hulu, if you pay for the bundle, you can now have all the Hulu content in one place. But it kind of negates itself that the Hulu app still exists. So it's like big whoop. You have it all in one place, but they're still separate. Exactly. So it's kind of weird. Second, in addition to the launch, Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that it will be cracking down on password sharing for both Disney Plus and Hulu starting this June in a few markets, with a larger rollout being in September of 2024. Like Netflix, Disney will let you add individuals to your subscriptions who live outside your household for an additional fee.
We already knew this was coming.
Yeah, we knew this was coming. It was just them confirming that it's happening rather soon instead of, it's going to be a small rollout in June with a bigger one in September. So yeah, for those who are, password sharing on your Netflix and Hulu accounts, be warned, they might stop you. They might block you, and you're going to have to make a decision. Either pay for it or don't.
They're all going to do it. Netflix made too much money. It was financially successful.
Oh yeah, it was
for them.
It was too much of a success. Yeah, you're 100% right. Netflix made way too much money on that for no one else to follow. So there you go. So just as a fair warning to our fellow listeners out there. And finally, Disney announced a few new release dates and changes to its upcoming theatrical release schedule, film release schedule. The live-action Moana film, originally slated for June 2025, has now been pushed back to July 10th, 2026, most likely due to the animated film Moana 2 being released this November. I feel like that has everything to do with the fact that Moana 2 is coming out this November. Why would you have a live-action version of that just a few months away?
Exactly.
Definitely need that separation for sure, which is something that we actually talked about. We actually theorized that they're probably going to push it back, and we were absolutely right.
Yeah, we called it. Check the episode. Check that timestamp.
Check that timestamp. We called it. Tron Ares will now be released October 10th, 2025. The Mandalorian Grogu on May 22nd, 2026. And Toy Story 5 on June 19th, 2026. Sure. So we got some release dates there. I am looking forward to Tron Ares, though. Out of all of them, that's like that one has the coolest potential. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the one of the photos they've released so far, and that just looks badass.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one because I actually liked the first one was fine. The second one I thought was really good, and then it's been so long. Cool. But I feel like now we have the technology to make a really badass Tron movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm 100% more for more Tron. I mean, even if the story didn't really make much sense in the sequel to Tron, it looked so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So imagine a 2025 version of that. Yeah, I'm 100% down, and it's starring Jared Leto. So that's another if you like him.
Exactly.
But there you go. That's all the entertainment news we have for you guys this week. Is jam-packed, but we got a lot in there. If you want all the latest and breaking news, you can always go to our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers and our Facebook and Threads page at Box Office Bingers. We'll post all the news, all the breaking news over there first, and then we'll come back on the show and we'll talk about it. So with that, we're going to be diving into a fun segment we like to call What You Watching. So Ernesto, we'll start with you. What have you been watching?
So, my wife and I, we finally finished the prequel show to Yellowstone, 1883, and it is absolutely probably one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen. It is so good. Because not only is it it is barely about the family, the family that's featured in Yellowstone. It's like you're following them, but what it really is using them as a device to show you what life was like back in 1883 for people who were trying to cross the Oregon Trail. And you see some crazy shit that happens. It is riveting television. The story is good. Just the way they kind of explain the lay of the land. I really got a feel for, people who crossed the Oregon Trail, 90% of them didn't make it. Because they either died. There's it's literally playing the video game. It's like looking at it in real life. It's like you would joke and just skip through all of it. It's like, no, this is the shit that they had to deal with. Crossing, having wagons cross rivers. That was a big thing for them to have to deal with because they didn't have bridges or real roads to cross over or going through certain Indian country. There are certain action set pieces that are just really horrifying to watch. I think there's a couple scenes where you see just women and children being shot and this lady being scalped. It's fucking crazy.
Wow.
It's really good. You don't even need to watch anything of Yellowstone.
That's my next question.
Sorry, you don't need to watch anything of Yellowstone to understand this and appreciate it. And Faith Hill and is it Tim McGraw, I believe? Look that up real quick just to make sure. Yeah, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. They were absolutely fantastic. I mentioned it last time, but it's these two singers who I've never seen act or have any wherewithal within the acting world. They came in and they killed these two roles. They just played their roles so naturally and so well. It was I would rewatch it again. It was that good. I couldn't recommend this anymore. This is 20 times better than the regular Yellowstone show. 100 times.
Damn. I mean, I do remember it was nominated for an Emmy for best limited series. I thought this isn't the one that's starring
Harrison Ford.
No,
and Helen Mirren. No, that's 1923.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. I got my dates mixed up. Yeah, I mean, I mean, you've been in bed with Ty Sheridan for quite some time now.
He's another one. I'm a fan. He's just an all-around creative. But it's these creatives who fully involve themselves in their projects. He literally Taylor Sheridan literally writes everything. He writes all of his shows. Do you know how many shows this man does? A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
and then without even realizing, I've been watching 2 or 3 of them, not even realizing that it was him.
Yeah, it's talk about another creator who Paramount was like, look, this guy keeps pumping out content. We got to keep him in the bag because all of his shows are on Paramount. So
even his movies, Hell or High Water, one of my favorite movies. Fucking great movie.
Hell or High Water is fantastic. I do feel like that I would probably like Yellowstone.
I think you should watch this.
But I
think this is. If you were gonna watch, and it's only one season, you only have to commit one season.
Yeah.
You should watch this. This is.
So you're saying it? If I'm gonna get into the world, start with this.
But 18. Okay, but don't get me wrong. Yellowstone is good, and I haven't seen 1923, but I'm sure that it's good. 1883 is peak Yellowstone. It doesn't me. It doesn't get any better than in the Yellowstone universe. It does not get better than 1883.
Okay, all right.
So if you watch it, just keep that in mind. Just remember, it's all
it's up here.
In relation. It's all in the same area, but at the top of the heap is 1883.
Got it. Okay, understood. Noted.
So now I've got some happier stuff. That's so I think I've talked about this movie before on Disney. It's called Heavyweights. It's
Oh yes,
written by Jude, which I didn't even realize until this one. It was written by Jude Apatow. Ben Stiller's in it. He plays like the character he is before he is the character he is on Dodgeball. He plays like the same kind of like fitness guru who was like a fat kid who who got skinny, and now he's like trying to make everybody. He's taken over the summer camp from Jerry Stiller and his wife. It's got Kenan Thompson. This is a fantastic kids movie. I showed my kids. They loved it. It was great. Like, I've watched this movie like 1,000,000 times when I was a kid, and I've shown it to them at least 2 or 3 times, and they said they didn't remember, but I was like, that's fine. We'll just watch it again.
This is a classic to me. I loved it.
Right? Oh, you've seen it.
I love
Good.
this movie.
Yes.
I've seen. Oh yeah, I've definitely seen this. This is like it's one of those movies where I forget Ben Stiller's in it.
He's so good in this movie.
He's really good. I feel like this was like the prelude to Dodgeball for him. Like I feel like the vibe of the characters are very much the 100%. Same.
Yeah.
But either way, like I love this movie. This is a classic. I'm surprised it took them this long for you to watch it with your kids, or have they seen it?
I
before?
told them that we've watched it before, and they're like, "No, we haven't." I was like, "Whatever. I guess we're watching it again then."
Check the timestamps because I'm pretty sure in one of the previous What You Watching we've discussed that we.
I know we have. I 100% know that I've talked about this movie before.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. But another classic.
Another classic one, especially for like a movie to watch with your kids. This is a easy go to. And what I've been really binging on, I'm not one for week to week, sir.
Ooh.
But damn, have I been hitting up X-Men 97. Sorry, I was ahead of you. You joined in halfway.
You were a little bit. I tried to join in, and then I was like, I'm not. We're on the same key. We're gonna try again.
The story is so good. The writing on it is so good. The action sequences are good. Like, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And even my wife, who didn't watch the original series, she was able to jump on just watching X-Men 97, and she was able to like keep up and follow along with the story. But it's great. It's great. I can't wait. Every week I'm looking forward to the next episode.
I was just about to say, like, were you a big fan of X-Men, the animated series?
I was. And Liz was too.
So this was a no-brainer.
Liz, friend of the show. She loved it. I mean, even before they announced this, there were times where she would just rewatch the series. That's how into it she was. I mean, and X-Men is great because, as far as character-wise, as a group, there's a lot of social commentary that goes along with the X-Men. So especially it resonates with, our society. And it's great storytelling. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, all I have to say is that even though Marvel Studios and the creators behind it said that the X-Men 97 has nothing to do with the MCU and we're just continuing off from the from the animated series that ended in 97, I'm not buying it.
No?
I don't think this is an accident that Marvel is not doing this out of the kindness of their heart to revive an old classic. No. Absolutely not. There is a reason why. And the fact that the Marvel Studios branding is on it, I mean they've predicated their entire studio off of interconnected universes. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that some of this, we don't know when yet, but some of what's going on in X-Men 97 is going to tie into the MCU. Ooh. There is an hour-long breakdown of the entire series that I plan on watching because I know myself. I'm not going to sit through 7 seasons worth of an animated show that came out in the 90s. So I'm going to get a big old recap on everything that's been going on. And then eventually I will watch X-Men 97.
It is worth it to watch. I mean, because the episodes are 20 minutes. You can just bang them out. I get it.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. not for this.
It's like, too much.
It's too much. It's like in a world of, saturated content, it's like I got to pick and choose. And I don't think I can do that, but I will do a recap and I'll probably watch the new stuff. And but I heard nothing but fantastic things about it. So obviously you're another person on the list to be like, this show is amazing. Yeah. Like they really Marvel understood the assignment with this one for sure.
And then my last thing for What You're Watching is I finished the first season of Legend of Korra.
Oh
Man.
I was like the whole thing. Oh, it's like just the
No, I
first
just
season.
finished the first season. I'm on the second season. I just started second season, and man, first season was great. It has the same feels as the original series. I do like the difference. Like it's not the same exact storyline where like Aang had each season was him learning an element. They've kind of got rid of that. Like you did a little bit of that in the first season, but then the second season it's like it's opening up the world for new powers for the Avatar to find, and their new issues that she's dealing with. I'm here for it. I think it's I think it's good. It's good TV. I'm excited to continue on and finish it.
Yeah, it only gets better. It only gets better. This actually lasted longer than Avatar because there's 4 seasons of Legend of Korra, and I think it only gets better from here. I really like the direction that it goes. It goes down avenues that make sense for this character, and so I like this. Makes me look forward to see what the creators have in store for their future projects that they have going on. That it's not going to be released until next year, but like they were able to do this and Avatar, and so now many years later we're going to stay in that world and give us new stories, and I think that's what it needs. So yeah, I'm 100% down for that. Also, it stays true to some of the stuff that happened in the Avatar films. I'm sorry, in the Avatar series, like they brought back a few characters. So yeah, like it's a good watch for sure. And like I said, I think it only gets better from season 1.
And that's all I got. Well, you're what you're watching. Your first one, I've also started watching it, but
let's dive into it then. This one's a rough watch. Quiet on Set: The Dark Side of Kids TV. This was something that a lot of people have been talking about. It's available to stream on Max. And yeah, for those who don't know, it's a documentary about a lot of people who worked on Nickelodeon during the 80s and 90s are kind of coming out and explaining that this was not, a lot of the stuff that happened behind the scenes are not great. Like it was horrible working conditions, and it only gets worse from there with abuse and how much they can get away with on television, a lot of provocative things that they kept putting on TV that was meant for kids. And when you like at the time, and I grew up with Nickelodeon, so at the time, as a kid, you're not really thinking about any of that stuff. But then under the context of this documentary, and you go back and watch certain elements of the shows that you had watched growing up with, it's kind of like, wow, that's a no-brainer. That's exactly what they were doing. They were trying to get, like, how racy can we make children's television? And it's just wrong on so many levels. It's so gross. Like, how far did you get?
Brian Peck was just arrested. So then the episode ends with Drake Bell sitting in the chair because he's the one who's I heard that episode is really, really, really intense.
Yeah, that's probably the most intense episode out of the 4, and I know they just released another one, episode 5, kind of bringing back certain people who were part of the documentary, and I think Soledad O'Brien is the one who's hosting episode 5, and so it's definitely more of a here's a documentary. Now it got very similar to like Tiger King, where the documentary was released, and then you come out with one more episode, kind of asking the people who were part of the documentary for their responses and how they respond to the people's reaction and stuff like that. So that's what episode 5 is about. I haven't watched it yet because I'm waiting for Megan to come back so we can watch it. But as far as the original 4 episodes, yeah, and especially when Drake Bell comes into play and he tells his story, that is just heart-wrenching. That, it's crazy that you see all these things on TV of like actors that like take a slope, or they're doing drugs or alcoholism, or they're like, oh, they're not what they used to be, and they went down the Hollywood system. But then you hear the stories of how they got to that. It's just deeply depressing and very sad. And you watch that and you're like, you can never go back and watch those shows the same again.
No, never. And I am curious, like once we finish it, I want to watch like Dan Schneider apparently did an interview kind of responding to it. And did you get a chance to watch it?
Yes.
How was that?
I mean, it's on YouTube. It's about 20 minutes long. of him like responding to it, and the gist of it is like, those were not my intentions. I'm so sorry for anybody who felt that way. It's one of those. It was like, I'm hearing you, and it was like, those were my intentions. I see now that those are wrong. That's the type of dialogue and narrative that it's going down. And
do you believe that? Do you believe he's sincere? There's no way. There's no way.
I mean, he in his old age, at this point, you're looking to save your ass. I mean, you're not saving your career because that's already gone. But it's been gone. That's been long gone. But at this point, you're just trying to save your own ass at this point. So it's hard to believe anyone in that situation what you have to say, because like what do you say? Like, aside from, no, that's right, I'm an asshole and everything I did was real. Like, they're not going to say that. So at this point, all it is going to be, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Those were never my intentions.
Did they hit him with hard questions though? Was it like a hard hitting interview, or was it kind of like, oh, like, what's your response to this, or like what was the interviewer like? Because I would be hot. I would be like, you're gonna come on, let's talk. Let's look at this clip. Why did you do that?
It was about mid at this point. Okay. Like, I wouldn't say it was like I would like you to watch it to have your own opinion on it, because what my definition of hard and soft, no pun intended there, is different. In the context of this. In this context, I should have used different words. But the level of what I think intensity is, as an interviewer or interviewee, it can be different to you. So I want you to watch it and see what your take on it is. But for the most part, it's like, overall, me watching this, and it definitely was a hot button. Everyone was talking about it. It's kind of like must-see TV. Like, this is the documentary that everyone was talking about. And it's just deeply depressing to see that some of the favorite moments of your childhood has been rooted by sexual assault and inappropriate jokes left and right that should never have been aired on television.
All that and Amanda Show is like one of my favorite. I used to love those shows. I used to love watching those shows as a kid. And like, I don't even want to think about watching those ever again. Like, you can't.
No.
I didn't even know they were talking about the Snick Dare show, and I guess they were relating it that there was like a fear factor for kids. I don't do you remember that? I don't remember that.
I don't remember that at all, no. I think that was like right before my time. I remember watching reruns of all that and Kenan and Kel. And Kenan Thompson has come out in response to the documentary, and he said this was before my time. Like, he said he can only respond to his time on set and his how he can only respond to what he dealt with, and it was nothing that was being described on the documentary. So it's not his fault, because I think a lot of people are looking at him because he's still very popular, obviously, with SNL. And he was like, look, all those people they're dealing with, it's a horrible thing to hear, but I have nothing to add to that because I was not around during that time of Nickelodeon. Like, he had just left from there. But I remember watching like reruns of all that and Kenan and Kel, and where I started watching a lot was the Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, those shows. And then even toward the later end, where was Victorious and Zoe 101 and iCarly, like, those were also the shows that I was kind of like on in between. I was phasing out of those shows, but still watching them, but also watching other things. It wasn't like deeply invested into those shows. But then just seeing some of the stuff that they were doing during those shows is just overly disgusting. And again, like, things that you don't even think about as a kid when you're watching it, but these were adults making these decisions, and seeing how a lot of people were uncomfortable, even the actors at the time on set, behind the scenes, like, knowing this isn't right, and yet they still have to do it for whatever reason they have to, just so they can have a job and have a career, and like literally the dark side of Hollywood. And unfortunately, you watch this documentary and you're like, these are the stories that these people are willing to go on camera and say. For all we know, there are a multitude more of stories of people who refuse to go on camera or be a part of the documentary, things that even the people that are on camera didn't even want to say on camera. They preferred not to. Like, it's like if this much is going out now, I can only imagine what else is the dark side of it all. That's been happening to multitude of other people. Like obviously Amanda Bynes was not part of this documentary, and
She should have been.
I'm sure she has a lot to
I wish
say.
we would have listened. I mean, I think she's someone that everybody wants to hear from.
Yeah, and I think she's keeping quiet for whatever reason that she has. I mean, she could still be going through rehab. We don't know what her mental state is, and it's just sad that it most likely rooted from the stuff we're hearing right now within this documentary. It's a very depressing watch, especially if you grew up with it, or if you're just a fan of just movies and television. Like, yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows that goes into making certain things. There's definitely, not every set is happy. And you're seeing the negative side of it. And it's crazy that it all rooted from a lot of people questioning certain things that happened. Like, a lot of people were questioning, like, certain scenes from some of the shows. And then that led down into a journalistic investigation. And then the documentary was born out of this. So that's just crazy how that kind of even came to be. Mm-hmm. For sure. But yeah, I mean, you're about halfway through. And so I will say this to you, it doesn't get any better. The stories, there's no happy ending.
Oh my gosh.
Like the stories just get worse from where you are.
As a parent, it just makes me, and even as like a past viewer, like I grew up on this shit. It just makes me just angry. Like it's very upsetting.
For sure. But as a hard pivot from this, I'm going to be talking about Talk to Me, the horror movie from A24 that just hit Paramount
Maybe
Plus.
Dan Schneider needs
it
to
was
grab
getting.
my hand.
It's
Sorry.
What's funny? It took me it took me so long to realize the title. It says "Talk to Me" / the hand, meaning talk to the hand, the expression, but talk to me, which is a hand, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Oh, I get it now. Okay.
I get it now.
I didn't see that, but I see it now.
Yeah, I did not like this movie.
I've heard such good things about it.
Same. Like I'm not one to dive into like horror movies like this, but it got so many rave reviews, and even Brandon Hadnot, a friend of the show, was raving about this movie, and I was like, okay, this is a must watch. Apparently, it's like. It's like the horror movie of the year. There's always a few of them that come out and are like, okay, this is one I'm going to look at because even though I wasn't really interested by the trailer, but everyone else was saying it's good. So like maybe the trailer was wrong. And then I watched the movie as a quick 90 minutes and I was like, nope, this ain't it. I like the way that it ended, but the journey was just not there for me. It was not a movie for me, but for horror fanatics, they saw something in it that I did not.
Okay.
So, but if you're interested, it's on Paramount Plus right now. A pivot from horror, I got some lighter stuff to talk about. Some winners on Netflix, I like to say. Leo was the movie that I talked about that's starring and written by Adam Sandler.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And you saw Leo?
Yeah, we watched that. We watched that movie. He's like a lizard, and he's like in the classroom, and he talks to this little boy.
Yeah. Yeah, it talks to the whole class really at this point. I really enjoyed this movie.
It was good.
I was not expecting to, and I think this always comes down. We've said this before. We'll say it again. Don't underestimate Adam Sandler in different roles, with the exception of maybe Spaceman. But
that I don't even give him fault for that. I give fault to the script for that, for Spaceman. I don't fault him or Paul Dano for Spaceman.
That's fair. They were not the reason why the movie was not good. It was mainly the writing and maybe the direction. But either way, the writing of it was just not great in that movie. But Adam Sandler, he's mainly known for live action comedies, and every now and then he just goes outside the box a little bit. And he did it with Hustle. He did it with Uncut Gems. Those are very different movies from his wheelhouse. And I feel like he doesn't do a lot of animation. And I say that now. He did Crazy 8 Nights and then the Hotel Transylvania movie. So I guess he has.
4 Hotel Transylvania movies, if I'm not mistaken.
4. I think you're right. There are 4. And he did 8 Crazy Nights, which was also earlier in his career. He did that animated movie. So he's no stranger to animation. But I think this one, it felt a little bit different to me. Less of like quick comedic gags and more heart to it. It definitely had a lot more heart, and I was not expecting it in this type of movie because it's a movie I kind of wrote off, honestly. And then Megan's like, "Oh, this looks cute. We should watch it." And I said, "Oh, all right." And then I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. This is actually not that bad." And the animation's pretty solid, and there's a good story in there about an old lizard. Who knew? Giving advice to the youths. And so, yeah, it's a cute little movie. I enjoyed it very much. Another good, this movie came out during Valentine's Day. It's called Players, starring Damon Wayans and Gina Rodriguez. It's your typical rom-com that just works. And Tom Ellis, your boy from Luther.
Yeah, look at him in the poster. Yeah.
Look at him. He's right there. Yeah, no, this was a fun watch. It's, again, there's nothing, it's predictable from the moment it starts. I was like, oh, okay, I know what we're doing. I got you.
Right.
Yeah, this is like, here's the premise, here's your players, and you're like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely happening. And sure enough, guess what? It did.
Is this a movie that Megan wanted to watch? Yeah.
Yes.
I figured as much. That's it.
Yeah, but I had a good time with it. I wasn't mad at it. It's like, yeah, it's your typical 90-minute rom-com that works. Like, because what do you want from a rom-com? You want a little romance? You want a comedy? You want us to get us by the next 90 minutes, and it did that. So,
and you enjoyed yourself.
So I
can't fault it.
And I enjoyed myself. Yeah. Nope, cannot. Moving over to the next two movies. I watched a lot of movies. This one just came out on Paramount Plus, called Little Wing, also starring your boy from Succession, Brian Cox. He plays an old man. And then Brooklyn Prince, who was from the Florida Project, she's the lead in this movie. And I did not expect to like this movie as much as I did. It very much so with the movie. If you're watching us on YouTube, I have a double feature here. It's next to a movie called The Beautiful Game, which is starring Bill Nye, and it's on Netflix. And these two are kind of sports movies in a way, that are just heartwarming and has a great story. And again, roughly around, Little Wing is 90 minutes. The Beautiful Game is 2 hours. And both, they have two sports movies that, well, Little Wing is kind of a sports movie. There's a little bit more heart to it, but it revolves around a certain sport, an obscure sport that I did not know of. And The Beautiful Game is inspired by the true story of the Homeless World Cup, which I did not know was a thing. So it's a soccer movie that takes homeless people who has some talent, and they give them a trip to wherever. In this case, it was, oh shit, I forgot where it was. Brazil? Rome. Sorry, they went to Rome. And they compete against other people around the country who are also homeless, and gives them more of a purpose and a drive to become, better people in society. And so, I was not expecting to have two heartwarming stories that were very entertaining to watch. And it has, there's a lot going for it. And then also in Little Wing, it introduced me to the world of pigeon racing.
Pigeon racing.
Did not know that.
Okay.
Pigeon racing. Did not know that was a thing. And how much that I looked into it. Yeah, it's very much a thing. And I learned a decent amount about pigeons in this movie as well. So again, both movies, Little Wing, Paramount Plus, The Beautiful Game on Netflix. If you're looking for solid sports dramas, those are your movies to go watch.
All right.
Moving on. Oh boy. I went down a Roadhouse double feature. The Roadhouse, starring Patrick Swayze from 1989, and then I immediately watched the Jake Gyllenhaal Roadhouse movie that just came out on Amazon Prime. Both movies are available on Amazon Prime. Go figure. And I will say that Roadhouse from 1989 is your definitive classic 80s movie. I was like, wow, this movie's of its time, for sure. You got shirtless Patrick Swayze being a bouncer at a strip club and at a bar. You got high level romance. This movie's a hard R because there's so much nudity in this movie. I was like, my God, this is the 80s right here. You have fights for no reason. You have cars. You have it all. Explosions. Come to the third act, this movie made no sense, but in the 80s, I'm sure it was thrilling to watch. And so I was like, this was the first time I watched this movie, and I only watched it because I knew this was a remake of like I was watching the new Roadhouse, and I was like, well, I gotta know where this came from. And so, yeah, it was fine. It was a movie of its time. But I enjoyed it nonetheless. Up until the third act, it kind of got like I'll say like the first 2/3 of this movie had the same vibe, and then the third act it just went off, and I was like, I don't know what we're watching anymore.
Is this you're talking about the Jake Gyllenhaal Roadhouse, him and Conor McGregor?
No, I'm talking about the 1989
okay,
version.
89.
Yeah. But now I'm going to be talking about the 2024 version with Jake Gyllenhaal, and it has a lot of the similar vibes to it for sure. There is like Jake Gyllenhaal's a drifter as much as Patrick Swayze was, and he goes into this going to be a bouncer at this bar, and then he gets wrapped up into whatever craziness that's happening within this town, very much similar to the first movie, but this time. You have Conor McGregor in there. And he was by far the worst thing I've seen in a long time in a movie.
Really?
I hated his character so much. He was like, like Jason Statham in Crank.
Yeah.
Where he's just high octane and just filled with so much energy, and he's just saying stupid shit for no reason. That's what his character was. And I hated every minute of it. He was like this wild man. That's like nothing of what you're doing and or saying are making any sense. The only reason why you're in this movie is because you can fight, and that's why you're here. And they definitely had a showdown by the end of the movie because you're gonna have a showdown by the end of the movie. But by that point, it made zero sense. Like, it's a story I did not care to follow. There were parts that were entertaining. I did like Jake Gyllenhaal in it. I thought he did great. It's very much they call it a reimagining, a retelling of the classic story, which in some elements it works better than the original movie, but overall, I mean, both of them are just equally as cheesy. And what's funny is that the director had a little beef with this movie and a little beef with Amazon because he was making a movie for MGM. And he was told that he was making a movie that was going to hit a theatrical release. Within that time, Amazon bought MGM, and by the time the movie was over, Amazon decided to put it on Prime instead of in theaters. And he was advocating and protesting against the movie to be a theatrical release, and he fought hard for it, and eventually he failed. And the movie premiered at South by Southwest, I'm pretty sure, and he was not going to go. And then he stayed. Then he was at the premiere and stated, "Well, if this is the only time this movie is going to be in the theater, I don't want to miss it." So he ended up, biting the bullet there and going and seeing his movie amongst his peers at the festival. And he stated that he's like, "Look, I made a good movie. It should have been in the theaters." I was like, "Yeah, you made a movie, and I don't doubt that it should not have been in the theaters, but I was perfectly fine watching it at home."
That's exactly where it belongs.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been overly excited if I had watched this movie in the theater. But I'm happy that I wasted my time at home rather than the theater. That's all I have to say about that. But it's fine. It was fine. Like, both movies are fine for what it is. Nothing over the top about it. But yeah, and the last two movies I'm going to talk about are two that features and kind of a nice transition into our spoiler review of the week with Monkey Man. Both these movies, When You Finish Saving the World and Musica, Face the Music, have both directorial debuts from notable actors, and maybe one over the other. But Jesse Eisenberg did his directorial debut with When You Finish Saving the World. It was a movie that was actually released early 2023, but it took almost over a year for it to finally hit a streaming service, and I don't know why it took so long. It was A24 too, which is odd because typically those movies go to well, now it goes to Max, but before it went to Paramount, so it should have led there, but for whatever reason it didn't, and now it's on Netflix. And so I finally had a chance to watch it, and it was solid. It was like your typical, like, I have an interesting story that I want to tell from an actor turned director. There's a certain vision, a certain style, and like it's your typical, like, it's a drama, a coming of age drama. and there's not much to it there. The story is fine, the acting is fine, and it just feels like that you as an actor knew you can direct a movie. And that's what it feels like. There was no risks, no over the top anything. It was like you were able to make a movie based off an idea or a story that you were interested in. And so that's how I felt about that.
Okay.
And then the juxtaposition to Musica, where it was starring, written, and directed and composed by Rudy Mancuso.
Yeah.
Rudy Mancuso. And he's on the poster, he's on the right there. And talk about like night and day with first-time directors. Now, that was a movie that had a vision, a creative purpose, like there was heart behind it. Like I find it very interesting when it comes to directorial debuts, what you decide to put out there as your first movie that you're directing. And again, we're going to be talking about that with Monkey Man a little bit later, but when you have these two movies, and I couldn't help but to compare the two, it's like Jesse Eisenberg, you made a movie, and it wasn't bad, it wasn't overly great, it was just a fine movie. But then you have Musica, which takes like whatever you have in your head and trying to put it out there and also present it in a very interesting way. You have creative one-shots, you have versions of this movie that was a play that worked very well in certain scenes. It was funny as hell. It had very live music behind it because the whole point of this movie was a coming of age movie where this guy's about to graduate college and he's kind of having a problem in his head where he's always seemed distracted, but he's always hearing musical tones throughout his entire life, and it's driving him crazy in a way. So like just the normal tapping, instead of a normal tapping, he hears a rhythm. And there was even a really good scene where he's describing, like, you know, he keeps getting distracted and he's trying to explain someone what he's dealing with, and it's something that's happening in the park. And then you see people like having rhythmic tunes of bouncing a ball, then taking out the trash, and doing all this and that, and traffic noise and bird noises, and like it was really good of a scene. And then it was just an entertaining story. It's also your typical rom-com, but the comedy was just fantastic. It was a movie that I was interested by with the trailer, and then by the moment it started, I was hooked from beginning to end. And it's like a solid, quick 90 minutes. Ooh, okay. And like this movie does not put the foot off the gas on it. And I just find that like that is a person with a vision that he wanted a specific movie to tell. And I applaud him for the ending too, because it does not go the way that you might think it goes.
Oh, okay.
When you're watching the movie. So
you sold me.
Yeah, it's so good. Also, I'm a sucker for movies that deal with music.
Same.
And so this is up there for sure. I want to listen to his soundtrack because some of the music in it is really good. And the fact, again, talk about the passion. You have starring, directing, writing, producing, composing. Like he wanted to be in every part of this movie, and I think he did a fantastic job. So that was Musica. That's on Amazon Prime. And if you want a solid movie, you can go watch when you finish Saving the World. It also stars Finn Wolfhard and Julianne Moore. That's on Netflix. And there you go. That's it. That's all we've been watching. So now we're going to be diving into our spoiler review of another directorial debut of Dave Patel in Monkey Man. So with that, Ernesto, we're going to start with you. Your thoughts on the movie.
Boy, I have to tell you, I absolutely love this movie. I loved how in your face it was. I loved how intentional the cinematography was. Like, there's certain fight scenes where you're in third person, and then when you start fighting, it goes into like a first person view. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, it just, the music, the way, like some of the fight choreography, like the one that really hits me is the very end. Cause you get like hard rock, and then you're getting like this like classical music, and just the way that he was able to tie those things together to tell this cohesive story, I thought was absolutely insane. I mean, when he has that fight scene at the whorehouse, and then like they're going at it and he's fighting them, and all of a sudden it just like immediately interrupted, like, oh, did you forget that the police were chasing you?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that was a cool way to like continue, like we're locked into this fight. Like to me, like that was a really intense, very intimate like fight scene between him and this guy, and then it just like abruptly gets like ended by the cops. Like he's there going back and forth, and he's holding him, and he's got the thing down, and he just gets blasted. It's like, oh, gotta go.
Yeah.
But the movie was I think the movie was a good ride. It's definitely one that I want to remember the year. I thought it had a good, it had a good clean story that we were able to follow. But it was really like watching Dave Patel just kind of like weasel his way into this organization and then just like fuck shit up.
Yeah. I will give I remember reading an interview with Dave Patel and him saying that he wanted to be doing more roles like this, but he was never being casted in one, like as an action star. Like he wanted to do action so bad, and he was never being offered, or no one would ever wanted him for an action role. So he was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. And that's where part of the history of this movie came in. And then obviously Jordan Peele coming in, and I guess Netflix backing the project to some degree, and then Jordan Peele coming in and kind of swooping in and being the producer on it, and obviously buying it. And because of how amazing the movie looked and feel. And I think they also say that this was like the John Wick in Mumbai movie. And this is exactly what this was.
It was a little bit more grounded. It's not as crazy. At least, well, the first John Wick was a little bit grounded too. Maybe Monkey Man 2, he'll have his coat will be bulletproof and he'll be able to get hit by cars and he'll be fine.
Yeah. Let's remember John Wick 1 was a lot more grounded. Like this John Wick was like they killed his dog and now he's on a murder rampage. Yeah. That's what John Wick was. And then it expanded to like this whole organization, the Continental, this assassin program, all that stuff. But this one definitely a lot more grounded, in the same vein of like we are just seeing like this is the new style of action.
Yes,
it's like. And I love it so much. It's like I thank John Wick for introducing that level of action, because we are getting more movies like it. Now John Wick is a genre in and of itself. It's like, oh, it's like John Wick, because John Wick was so definitive on what type of action it was delivering. And I think Dave Patel saw that and took inspiration from it, because I see so much of John Wick into this movie.
Even what he's wearing.
But it's It's true, even what he's wearing. And there were certain elements of this movie that I really, really enjoyed. I want to talk about the stuff I didn't like first, because it's very minimal. And for me, it was more the second act. It's like I was along for the ride where we were going, he was kind of weaseling his way into this organization so he can get more information, kind of be on the man on the inside. And then he takes his shot, and then it all kicks off in the bathroom, which that was a wild action scene.
God.
Like,
what I thought was going to happen. So what I thought was going to happen is I thought he was going to kill him right there in that room in front of everybody.
Same.
It's because when he snorted the bleach and he threw his head back, I thought he was just going to put the gun to his head and pull the trigger. And I was like, oh, so this is what's going to kick off like everybody out to get him. But then it evolved into that fight scene in the bathroom, which was so good. Well, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, honestly, I thought he had spiked the drugs and he was going to die there.
So did I.
Like a silent death. But nope, it went into the bathroom and it was an all-out bloodbath. And it was insane to watch with all the glass and him trying to get him with that and the kicking of the gun and everything. And then it led to, again, showing some comedic moments in there, which I 100% enjoy, whereas like he's getting ready to leave the building and he's running toward the glass window and it doesn't break. And he's like, shit. And then the people start coming and he's like, now I got to fight these bastards. And so then it kind of goes into him, that transition, leaving the building, then go into a car chase. Then he's on the top of the building running away from him, and then ending as he's either gets hurt or shot as he's going into the water, into the river. And I think from that moment is where I started losing a little bit of interest, because like you got me on this high right now. And then I forgot, because there's also the brothel scene as well, where he was doing the car chase and the foot chase and the roof and all that stuff. And then I feel like they did a great job building you to the action, that I was hoping we were just gonna stay there for a while. But then when it comes down and he goes into the river and then people save him, I feel like it was like a long time before we got back to the action. It was like a good 30 minutes or longer that he kept like licking his wounds and getting more along with the people who saved them. We learned more about his past and how he got there, and like I'm all for that. Just give me a tighter version of that.
Okay, I hear you on that. I wasn't opposed to it because like that initial fight scene, what I really love that it showcases is that he's not like he can fight, but he's not like the best fighter because like it was very sloppy, it was clunky. Like he failed at killing him, obviously, which led to everything else that happened. But then I feel like you get that moment repaid when he's like training and he like almost like he becomes the monkey man. Like when he's hitting the bag and they're all watching him and he's been building himself up. Like for me, like that was the payoff for that. And you needed the backstory on him. But I can see it where a tighter version it would have kept the energy of the movie because it does at that point it does take a dip because then you go into that and then you learn about the transgender community that took him in and they're like taking care of him and like nursing him back to health and you learn like a little bit about them and then it kind of like out of nowhere just kind of kicks back off my only thing was like, how did his friend know that he was going to be fighting that night?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he kind of comes in and was like, we're just waiting for him to show. Maybe he's been showing up every night. I don't know.
Maybe.
And then also like, who was the kid that placed the bet? Unless Dev Patel was the one that stole all the money and then gave it to the kid and say, hey, put all the money on the monkey man. And I'm assuming that's where the line of, where that kind of went into. And then he was able to get more money for the community that took him in. But yeah, I think my only gripe about it was like we just took a dip and we were just there for a little bit longer than I was anticipating because honestly, I wasn't expecting for us to stay there and this was going to be his training ground for rehabilitation and him to train. I just thought that they saved him and he was going to move on to the next thing. So I was not prepared for that. But when we got back into the arena, and when he put back on the monkey man suit and was like here, and it was perfect. Again, comedic timing. You have all this build up. Here's the serpent or the snake, whatever. Here's the monkey. And obviously he's the villain. He's supposed to lose and all that stuff. And the guy goes and begin, gives him one good kick to the face. And he was out. Night. Yeah. And he was like, and the announcer guy was like,
whoa, what a lucky kick, eh?
And they were like, what are you doing? And all that stuff. And then obviously eventually they were rooting for him. But it was just like, it was such a good moment from where we started the movie, where he was like worried about money, trying to get ahead, while also he was worried about money a little bit, but I think mainly he was training for his mission to infiltrate this organization that that killed his mother, I guess. Yeah. And I heard that this was actually rated NC-17 at first, because I think that scene, I might not be 100% right, but I remember reading that scene that with his mother was initially a rape scene.
Well, it was implied. I think it's implied that that he raped her because he took the belt off.
Okay. And then maybe it was more explicit then, but they toned it back a little bit so it can have a rated R rating for that particular scene, which was probably a good no. I don't think we need to see that, so that's not necessary. But once we got back to like him going into the hotel and him essentially bleaching his monkey man mask, cool. And now they have like this white, like, oh man, like that was a great moment of build up. Is like, oh man, he's about to fuck shit up. Like round 2, baby, he is not messing around anymore, and like he is mad. And I just loved how like carnage it was from that moment on. Like it was pure carnage, and it was incredible to watch on the big screen, mind you. And Jordan Peele, like he saw this movie and he knew that this needed to be seen on the big screen, because I am 100% so glad that I was able to watch 100%. that level of action
needed to be seen. That's a movie that needs to be seen in the theaters.
Yeah, and it was so well done. I think where I was more impressed with, I wasn't 100% too thrilled on the story because it was rather simple for the most part of what it was trying to do. But I was more impressed with the cinematography of this movie because, like, okay, you can replicate the fighting style of John Wick, but also make it your own. For sure, don't get me wrong there. And that's already a feat to have going into it. But I think this was such a statement for Dev Patel as a director, like more behind the scenes, and really a showcase for him as a whole, because again, he was an actor who was mainly in dramas and mainly in dramas and one or two thrillers, and then he's like, no, I want to be a fucking action star, so I'm going to show you that I can do action. And he comes out of the gate with this, but not only by acting in a high stakes action movie, but also behind the scenes as directing one, and more importantly for me, the cinematography and how it was shot. It was shot so well, especially when we get to the scene where toward the end of the movie where there's like he's in this room and there's like these glass things kind of like these glass circles that are coming from the ceiling, and they're kind of circling.
Yes,
kind of like,
yes, and then you get the reveal that Inspector Singh is in the room with him.
Yes, and but you're seeing those reflections through the mirror as those little objects were turning, and I was like, wow, that's a choice from the cinematographer or as a director to make sure these shots were in there. Like, you can see the level of detail that they were going into, trying to replicate a style of movie that just looks amazing.
It's incredible.
And I think they achieved that very, very well. And there was also a couple of scenes that kind of pointed out to me, the one where he was in the elevator, I believe, and like he was strapped against something. I forgot what it was, but he was like trying to kill somebody with the knife, but his hands were tied up or being used otherwise. And so to do the final blow, he used his mouth and projected the knife into his head or his mouth or something. And I was like, it was his neck. You're right. And I was like, oh man, that's intense. That's pretty badass.
I mean, the violence was just so like visceral and like really like in your face. It's really, I mean, this is a fantastic film, like absolutely fantastic. Jordan Peele is right. It needs to be seen in the theaters.
But that level of, like you say, like a fight choreography, like even that needed to be, thought out. And I think they thought a lot about, like, the action was the most important part of this movie.
And I think the way that they tied them together, like the way, like that one's like specifically the one fight scene at the end, just the way they were able to tie in the music and the change of the music and how it kind of it was dictating the pace of the actual fighting that was happening like in the scene. I thought it was just well planned out, well timed out. I mean, it was exciting to watch, especially when you think that they got him, they're all surrounding him, and then his crew comes up and they get their little sling blades and just start fucking people up.
Yeah, I feel like if they were to go anywhere of expanding this world, that would be an avenue they can go down with exploring this community, this tribe that they were in. But much like, again, comparing it to John Wick, we don't know if he died at the end of this movie. We assume that he did, but like all good action movies, we can't assume anything. Because for whatever reason, if this movie makes money or if it's very popular, they can easily not die from the wounds that they had. But if this was the only movie that we got, then I would much more appreciate that of him dying for what was the will that he had to get to where he was to complete his goal of killing the person who killed his mother or the organization that killed his mother. So like, this was more or less a revenge story, and by the end of the movie, his revenge was complete. So he died with that, and I like to think of that's how the movie is. Like, that's how the movie's gonna end.
I can see that. I can see that.
Like, how do you land on the ending of the movie?
I thought it was fine, but I like your ending better. It makes it more definitive. It makes it adds more weight to the revenge of how far he was willing to go to avenge the death of his mother. I mean, the big sacrifice at the end is always is always the better route. But I can if you want to leave it open for you to do more things, then of course this is the end. Then that's the ending you want to go with.
Right. And I guess I mean, I wasn't expecting this old man to go, go all out blazing on an action fight scene toward the end. But it was very like, okay, you reach the old man pulling the strings type of move where he's sitting on his high castle. You get to the top of the tower and you guys exchange a few words and he tries to do one final blow when you're already wounded like a whole bunch. And then, old man's trying to do his thing with the slippers and gets him with the pin there. But yeah, I mean, I thought that ending was fine for the most part. I think the bigger action set piece was more for the scene before that, where he was going against more of his equal rather than the old man. But yeah, there's just so much to like about this movie, especially pertaining to the action. I want to quickly talk about the box office. It says Jordan Peele Jordan Peele paid $10 million for this movie, and it earned that right on the start. It opened with $10 million in the box office. No way was this going to compete with Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire in terms of the box office, but it opened up in second, which is pretty good for what this movie is. But yeah, I mean, you have, like I said, open to 10 currently at the time of this recording, has 12 million domestically, another 2.5 internationally, and has a total of 14.6 worldwide. Not too bad for a movie with a low budget like that. You mean, you're within the first week, you already made back what you paid, and if you're looking to make a profit, once it makes 25, which is on its way there, you're looking to make a profit on this movie. So again, Jordan Peele took a good gamble on it, and it seems like it's going to come out to be a small profit for them.
I agree, but you know what? If anything, this is just going to set him up. Now he's in the Monkey Paw family, so who knows what else Jordan Peele has in store for him. I'm excited to see what he has next in store.
Yeah, at this point, I think at the very least, Dev Patel showed the world that how he is as an action star, how he is as a filmmaker, how he is as a director, and I think it's very fitting that under the Monkey Ball production company, Jordan Peele did the same thing. Like Jordan Peele was known for comedy, and his stunt on what's the show called?
Key and Peele?
Thank you, Key and Peele. And that's what people known him for. And then he comes out of the gate with Get Out and was like, hold on a minute. I'm not just a funny man. I am a filmmaker and a screenwriter, and I can do horror pretty well. And he made a statement with that movie. And I think it's fitting that Dev Patel was able to make that same statement for the message that he wanted to do with his movie Monkey Man. And I think Jordan Peele probably saw that and was like, that was me a couple of years ago. I want to support that. Come on board. I'm going to buy this movie and we're going to make some magic together. And I think I love the story behind the scenes for it. And it, like, that passion behind the scenes shows on screen 100%.
Oh, you can see the care and dedication in every shot.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also worth noting, I do remember reading that the box office could even be more because the movie hasn't premiered in India yet. So I think they're looking at those numbers to see as far as financial success. But with all of that, Ernesto, your final thoughts on the movie?
I loved it. I think that it was a fantastic first outing for Dev Patel. I think he's an underrated actor, because even his directing, like his acting, his time on screen was fantastic. He stole the show. His how like primal he was able to get to like really to get into these action sequences and just really gave himself to the role. I mean, I really, really loved it. I'm gonna go 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, and with your same sentiment, I'll also give it 4.5. Mainly because I wasn't a big fan of the second act of the movie. Like I stated before, I think it should have been tighter. But other than that, that's really my only gripe about this movie. Like, it wasn't really necessarily the story that I had a problem with. It was just that I felt a little bit long. So the movie was 2 hours. It could have been like an hour 45, and I think that would have been like the right time for this movie to have.
Kept the pacing
so
from between the first.
It would have kept the pacing.
First and the third act.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it would definitely have helped with the pacing. But along the way, man, was this an action movie? It might be the best action movie I've seen all year.
Ooh, I would agree with you as of yet.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's a strong statement.
Yeah. I mean, so far we are pretty early-ish. We're in April right now, so it's not like we're only 4 months into the year. But out of all the movies we've seen so far, this was the one that was like, okay, now I think we're starting to put down some best of the years ready by now. Like, I'm putting some movies aside and be like, okay, you're definitely as a top 10 contender for sure. We'll put it that way.
2024 is coming in hot with some good movies.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, no, I loved it. I think the statement was made, Dev Patel.
We hear you.
The statement was made. We hear you, and we respect you, and we always loved you, but now we love you even more. Because I loved him as Slumdog Millionaire, and I enjoyed his character in The Newsroom. I very much enjoyed that show when it came out, but like, he was more or less typecasted in those roles, especially coming off of Slumdog Millionaire. So now this is a person, like, he wants a change in his career, and the only person that was able to do that was himself. And I respect so much more. And then to not only do that, but then deliver on it just makes it even better. And then for him, this is a movie that he owns. It was like he was able to do that. There's a lot of pride there. So now the possibilities are endless of what his next role is going to be. Is it another Monkey Man? Is it another action thriller like what we just displayed here? Will he go back? Will he get his fill and then go back to his dramas? Who knows? But I think very much so, this was an action-packed, visceral, I like the word you use, primal, violent movie, and I enjoyed almost every minute of it. Especially when we got to the action, it was incredible. Like, the fight cinematography was on point with this movie, and I can easily see this movie again.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just looking at his IMDb. He has 2 upcoming projects, one of which is Wicker, that's in pre-production, and Rabbit Trap, that's in post-production.
None of those sound like dramas to me.
Nope. Well, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. What do they have?
Rabbit Trap is a horror. A married couple are 2 musicians who move from London to a cottage, and by accident they read a mystical sound never to be heard. Okay, maybe this is not Monkey Man.
This is not Monkey Man, no.
But he's attached. He's attached to
one?
be the main lead in that one. And let's see, this other one is Wicker. Come on, click for me. There we go. Okay, Wicker is the internet goes so slow.
Oh, with Olivia Colman.
You got to it before me.
Yeah, a fisher woman lives on the fringes of the sea's village. She is unmarried, stinky, and consistently teased. One day, sick of her stuffy, narrow-minded neighbors, she orders a wicker husband for herself. This sounds like a comedy.
Yeah, I would have said so.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, this is a very odd description. Well, I would still enjoy whatever Dev Patel does next, but I would love to see him more in action movies like this.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's the avenue I like. This is so far the best version I've seen him in so far. We'll put it that 100%. Way. But there you go. That's our spoiler review on Monkey Man. Definitely, if you have a chance, go check it out in theaters. As Jordan Peele says, it was meant to be seen. And we would 100% agree with that because it was amazing to watch on the big screen. But with that, Ernesto, tell our lovely listeners what they can look forward to next week.
Next week, we are seeing Civil War, written and directed by Alex Garland. If you don't know who he is, he did movies such as 28 Days Later, Ex Machina, Annihilation. I'm looking forward to this. There's a lot of talk about this movie, especially, given it is an election year. So this seems like obviously the perfect year for a movie like this to come out. So I'm curious to see what conversations this movie is going to spawn. Like, is it one of those where they're going to tell you, or or you left at the end to interpret? So that's kind of where I'm at with this one.
This is what I'm really excited about. I was really taken from the trailer. I was like, ooh, this looks really
They have
good.
a fantastic cast.
And they do have like Kristen Dunst, Jesse Plemons, Nick Offerman, I believe. I think the cast is great. I want to do more research on it, so I'm going to say this very loosely, but I'm pretty sure the director said this is the last movie he wants to make.
Really?
Yeah, which is quite surprising, but I want to put a pin on that. When we go back next week, I want to do some more research to see if that was actually true. But if so, that's another conversation we're going to have next week, that if this is his final movie, what happened behind the scenes? Why would this be his final movie? Maybe this is all he wanted to say in film. I don't know. Or I could just be making the whole thing up and we're not going to talk about that next week. But I'm not entirely sure. But either way, I was really blown away by this trailer because I wasn't really expecting it. And I saw it in the theaters first. And I was like, wait a minute, what is this? Like, this looks really good. And it's going to be a very decisive. There you go. Divisive. Thank you. A very divisive film. That I like what you said. I think this will spark interesting conversations. What this movie is, and I think a lot of people were already talking about it because it premiered at one of the film festivals, and it was already getting rave reviews about it. So, especially I love Ex Monica,
Machina.
Yeah, Machina. But yeah, I love that movie, and so anything that this guy does, I'm here for. Even though I wasn't a big fan of Annihilation, but that's okay. But I like one of his movies, so I think he can maybe give us that level of intensity again with this one. So I'm really looking forward to it for sure. I know this is the one that I think I'm more interested in than you were at this point.
Yeah, but I'm more on board now. I wasn't at first, but I'm more on board now.
Gotcha. But yeah, so come back next week for that. And if you want more from us, follow us on all of our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterbox page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office_Bingers. You can see our lovely faces on our YouTube channel where we record the show. I was going to say live. It's not live. We record the show so you can visually see all the fun graphics we have, as well as our lovely faces. And then you can check out our Facebook and Instagram and our TikTok page for all the short little snippets that we have from our show that you can watch on our social media channels. Also on our Instagram page, we have Movie Showdown Monday, and we'll tell you what's new to stream Friday, as well as all the breaking news that you can find there, as well as our Facebook and Threads page. And then you can see all of our movie reviews on Letterboxd. So if you're not following, if you've been listening this entire time and you're not following at least one of them, I mean, maybe you don't have social media. Maybe you're probably one of the better ones. But I will say that you're missing out on some entertaining stuff if you're not doing that. But that is all the show we have for you guys this week. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening. Let's just talk about movies. We really do appreciate it. We have a jam-packed episode for you guys, so you hope you enjoyed it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Ernesto Santos. See ya.